I want to bring in former Trump White House Associate Counsel May Mailman into the conversation as well. May, we're talking about the winners and losers here and thinking about how all this is unfolding. I mean, this is but one of the, 4 indictments that the former president is facing. But there are a number of co-defendants here. There are, of course, co-defendants in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case as well. When you're looking at all of this, taking a step back, what is your take in terms of what this is going to mean, knowing there is obviously an election about 400 or so days away?
Yeah, so Trump has said that the March 4th date, that is the date settled for the D.C. Jack Smith's case, so Gene's winner here. So he has called that election interference. And I think he's right in the sense that it's election interference in his favor in the primary. So we have seen Trump more than double his support during this primary season because of these indictments. I think at the very beginning that was maybe understandable because you had Alvin Bragg's case first. I think even people on the other side of the aisle were a little bit skeptical of that. But, you know, all of this playing out during the primary process does seem to be helping President Trump. Does it move an independent voter toward Trump? Probably not, but Trump is, I think, the near-term winner, actually, with with all of these cases piling on top of him.
I mean, that's interesting to think about the thumb on the scale inuring to the benefit of Trump, because we certainly see the money that is being raised, the idea of the weaponization of the government, a consistent talking point. I think he often discusses, look, they're really after you. I'm in the way. I'm taking the heat for you here. But then you talk about, that's Fulton County. Then let's go down to Mar-a-Lago for a second, because Jack Smith now has a cooperating witness against the former president in that classified documents case. It's an IT worker, Yusol Taveras, and he could testify to efforts by Trump and the other co-defendants, Walt Nauta, Mr. De Oliveira as well, in their attempts to try to delete security camera footage to keep it from being handed over to a grand jury. That could be particularly damning for Trump. We heard a little bit about that in the indictment against Donald Trump, of course, and when they added second co-defendant, Mr. De Oliveira. But are you surprised now that there is that cooperating witness? And if you were advising Trump, obviously you're not his counsel, but if you were advising him or the team, what would be your suggestion here?
So I guess I'm not surprised. There was a lot of pressure on this person because he had a potential perjury charge. He said one thing to the grand jury at first, and then he flipped his story. And I think that there was pressure being put on him of, if you want to avoid charges, you really should cooperate with us. And, you know, I guess I'm not, if I'm advising Trump, I would want to know what was said to this person, but at least what's in the superseding indictment doesn't make me all that concerned, because it seems like he didn't have a direct link to Trump as far as an obstruction of justice. So I think as clear as you can see it, even though you have to read between the lines a little bit, Trump's attorney called Trump saying that there's a subpoena. Trump then talked to Walt Nauta. Walt Nauta then talked to another person, the third named defendant, and then that person and Walt talked to now this cooperating witness. So there's a lot of telephone. You don't know if he's going to know what's in Trump's mind, if he was even aware of a subpoena, if he knew Trump was aware of a subpoena. So we'll see what comes out of it. But this person is low level enough that it wouldn't give me immense heartburn, I guess.
I mean, there certainly has to follow the leader and follow that game. But then again, there are 3 co-defendants, so perhaps testifying against one might actually induce other pressure in other ways. But that's up to Jack Smith to prove his burden in this case. Also, there's this point where Donald Trump was telling Hugh Hewitt today that he's willing to go on the stand to defend himself at trial. Now, we've heard Trump say oftentimes that he would testify. Then he will oftentimes say, I would do it, but my lawyers say I can't. So in this instance, the idea of him testifying, would you suggest he do so in any of these cases?
So lawyers are risk averse, and so I would always say no, especially with Trump, where you never know what he's going to say, and so that amount of risk is just not something that you need, especially in something like the Mar-a-Lago case, where I think you want to focus less on the facts because the facts are pretty bad, and you want to focus more on the law. What is the interaction between the Presidential Records Act and the Espionage Act? What is the required state of mind under the Espionage Act? These sort of questions where you really don't want to be pushing the facts. And of course, Trump is going to be out there with a whole bunch of facts. So do I think Trump is ultimately going to testify? No, I think these are just words. I guess my one caveat to that is usually defendants don't want to testify because they are presumed innocent until proven guilty. With Trump, you are a little bit different. Everybody already has their opinion of him. And so maybe there is something to be gained about sort of proving your innocence in Trump's case that wouldn't normally be there for a standard defendant.
Certainly, it's always the prosecution's burden, but it is interesting to think about. He has really conceded the possession of the documents. The rest, of course, he is contesting. How will that play in the end of all of this? Of course, I'll tell you, if he does take the stand, the prosecution will have to have a bib around their neck to stop from salivating at every word he is saying in the other three cases as well. May Mailman, nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.